anything you want to know, just let me know.
No, I mean, what should I say about you? You've been with the Times 20 years. Did I read that somewhere?
20 years, I know.
What's your title? It said the education
reporter. But you can
reporter.
say I'm a staff writer, Times staff writer.
Staff writer, okay.
And I've been with the Times for 20 years, and I've been covering Pasco County for at least 12 years. Probably more. Now you know for sure. You can see it on her mask, her name. So yeah, I got my Amendment 2 question on here. That's what you wanted, right? Amendment 2, $15 minimum wage.
Okay, I didn't say that, but
Oh well.
probably Greg said it or
Yeah,
Tim.
they said that was like the one question they wanted me sure. Amendment 2, minimum wage.
Okay.
So I put it on for
Welcome, everybody, to the candidate forum for the November 3rd general election that will be coming up soon. This debate has been organized by the Public Policy Committee of the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce and also by the West Pasco Board of Realtors. It's sponsored by Coldwell Bankers, F.I. Gray & Son Residential Realtors, and by ServPro of West Pasco. My name is Bruce Mills, and I'm a past chairman of the chamber. And I would also like to thank Tim McLean, the president of the Greater Pasco Chamber, and Greg Armstrong, who's the chairman of the Public Policy Committee. And first off, we'd like to talk a little bit with Mike Gallo, who's the president of the West Pasco Board of Realtors.
Hi, thank you for having me, and thank you guys for coming to our building for your forum. Was there anything specific you wanted to know?
No, if you could just tell us a little bit about what the West Pasco Board of Realtors does.
Well, what the board does is they keep all the realtors in business. They monitor ethics and do a lot of education and training for the realtors so that we have a place to go for training, education, and meetings and educational events like that. And as far as the market goes, if anybody doesn't know, the market's awesome right now. And the board has been open since July after the COVID. We've limited the number of people who can come into our building. We are using safety precautions, but we have been live and doing live training for the realtors in the area so that nobody fell behind in education or training so they could better serve their customers.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you sponsoring us and hosting the event here at the West Pasco Board of Realtors building. This is being broadcast by John Gasson of WeBeam TV, and it's on the Facebook Live sites for the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce, as well as the West Pasco Board of Realtors. Our moderator today, and the person that came up with all the questions and will ask all the questions, is Jeff Solacek. And Jeff has been with the Tampa Bay Times for over 20 years. He's been mostly the educational reporter and a staff reporter for the Times. Our format will be we have flipped a coin before the first debate, and candidate number 1 will have an opening statement of 2 minutes, followed by candidate number 2 for 2 minutes. I'm sorry, 3 minutes opening statement. And then we will go back and forth with questions. The first question, the candidate will have 2 minutes to give a response. The opposing candidate will have 1 minute to respond to that, and the original candidate will then have 30 seconds. So for each question, it will be 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then back to the original candidate for 30 seconds. At the end, we will go for close to 45 minutes per debate, and at the end, we will cut off questions, and there will be a 2-minute closing. The candidates do not need to take their full time. Feel free to shorten it, and sometimes shorter is sweeter. Our timers are Nora George of ServPro and Cynthia Armstrong, a school board member, and
realtor,
and a realtor. We have the ServPro timer. You can't see it on camera, but anyway, they have lights and they have paddles, and we have a little bell that we ring when the time is up. So please don't go over your time. And with that, our first debate is for County Commission District 3, which is pretty much south of Highway 54 and west of Bruce B. Downs. Our incumbent candidate is Catherine Starkey. Hello, Catherine.
hello.
And her challenger is Jessica Stempian, and she gets my seat. So with that, we'll leave it with Jeff.
Thank you.
Well, in our coin toss, Ms. Starkey, you won.
No.
You get to go first.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I did win.
Oh, yes, you did.
Hello and good evening, and I want to thank you all for hosting this debate. It's actually my first debate of the campaign season, so it's an honor to be here tonight. Just going to give a little background about myself. I moved here in the early 90s, marrying my husband, Trey Starkey, a long-time Pasco County family. And I was very fortunate at that time to be able to get real involved in the community. I knew I was going to be living here a long time, so I thought, why not try and make it a better place? And I served as president of the All Children's Hospital Guild, the Tampa Bay Board of Red Cross. I was appointed to the Southwest Florida Water Management District Board, served there for 6 years. I started a nonprofit called Scenic Pasco, whose mission was to change a bunch of ordinances for the betterment of the community and for the county. I also started something called, or put on it something called Pasco 2000, and we did a visioning session for all the electeds in Pasco County, and taught them how to really just to run government better through e-business, through e-commerce, and going through the Sterling Award. And many of the county constitutionals have now done that. I was asked to run for the school board in 2006, and I first said no. But in the end, I did run and was successful. And in my first term on the school board, I was voted as the first school board member of the year for the whole state of Florida. So I think my hard work was recognized. And I then went back into private practice after I lost another race, and then was asked to run for county commission. So for the last 8 years, I have been one of your 5 county commissioners, working hard to solve the problems that we have here in Pasco County and making sure that our community is the best. We have some challenges. We have some areas with flooding, and I'm very happy to say this year no one's had any water in their house, and I don't think last year either. So we have a long way to go, but we've done some work there. And economic development also is one of my passions. I started the International Economic Development Council over at PEDC, and we work hard to bring companies here and bring more jobs. So flooding issues, economic development issues, and really high quality of life issues are passions of mine. And I look forward to working another 4 years on those same issues and making this the best county in the state to live in. Thank you.
Ms. Stembian, up to you.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Stempian, and I am Pasco County candidate for County Commissioner in District 3. I am a mother, a former teacher, an environmental scientist, a meeting facilitator, a community advocate, and a Pasco County native. I am raising my son with my husband in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. I am running to address stormwater and flooding issues, preserving what is left in this county, and managing the growth. I have a degree in environmental science from the Florida Institute of Technology. I started out in college having internships with the Southwest Florida Water Management District in the restoration and conservation stormwater sections. Out of college, I taught high school science, biology, and coached volleyball for a year in Melbourne, Florida. I moved back home to be closer to my family, and I coached Land O'Lakes high school volleyball team for 3 years. I did that at the same time as working for the Hillsborough County Health Department, inspecting septic systems, permitting them too. I did that for 4 years. Then I was fortunate enough to land a job with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services in the Office of Ag Water Policy, and I've been there for 13 years. I started out working in the field with the farmers, helping them understand their role in protecting natural resources. I worked my way up to managing a team in the Southwest area, 16 county area, and then managing a team in the northern half of the state. I then was fortunate enough to attend a leadership program that taught me a lot about meeting facilitation, working with groups of people. And I moved into doing strategic planning, emergency response coordination. And currently, I am the water policy coordinator for the Southwest District area. So I work with agricultural stakeholders on a daily basis on water policy issues like water supply and water quality. I have a lot of experience running public meetings, facilitating workshops, managing projects, writing grants. And I am active in the community for solving problems. I'm one of the founding members of the Sierra Pines Coalition in our neighborhood, in which we work on mitigating our stormwater and flooding issues, and we've had a lot of success. But I know that there are at least 15 other neighborhoods in this county that have issues just like us that need an advocate. So for me, I'm running for those people who need an advocate, as well as other issues in the county that need advocates. I'm also running for my son, who is here today, to show him that it's your civic duty to, when you see an issue, to not sit on the sidelines, but to lead by example. Thank you.
Wow, I'm tired listening to all the things that you guys have accomplished so far. So now we're going to get into some of the issues, and there are so many facing the county, and we'll try and get in as many as we can in this period of time. So we'll start off with you, Ms. Starkey. You still get to talk first. You'll get 2 minutes then you get 1 minute, and then 30 seconds to respond, and that's the way it will go back and forth.
Okay.
We're going to start off with growth. Pasco County has been growing since I can remember. These roads were not as crowded. There weren't as many buildings around. And now, as people are moving here more and more, some people want that quality of life that sometimes means not growing so fast. How do you balance the economic development and the quality of life issues to make Pasco be the place it needs to be?
You know, my husband tells a story that they used to play kickball out on 54 when there was hardly any traffic out there. So yeah, there's been a lot of growth. But Florida is a growth state, and Pasco County has been a bedroom community for so long, and so many of our people were heading south. So while yes, we are growing with residences, we're also growing with businesses. And it's been a challenge, but I think we're doing it well. 1/3 of the county is preserved, and we are buying more and more each year. We just bought tens of thousands of acres over in the Land O'Lakes area. And when I was chair of the commission, we finished the East Pasco Rural Protection Ordinance, which preserves the rural nature of the east side of our county. And also we were able to get through the Wildlife Corridor Protection Ordinance. So I'm very proud of those two things. And so, yes, while we're growing, and a lot of people wish we weren't growing so fast, the fact of the matter is we have a great state, a great county. People want to move here. And we just don't have a way to lock the doors and keep them out, so we have to manage it the best we can. We were the first county in the United States to bring in the Urban Land Institute and help us deal with growth and have a county-wide plan. They've actually come twice. And so we think we've put some things in place that will help us grow correctly. So we're growing fast, but I think we're growing in a good way. And so, yep, challenges still, transportation, definitely, traffic. I think you'll see a big improvement when Ridge Road opens on the 54 corridor. But it's difficult to have a county with 500,000 people, over 500,000 people, and have only 2 east-west roads. But I think we've done a great job.
Ms. Stempian.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing from constituents is that they're concerned about the growth. And what is really hard about development, and what I'm hearing, is they don't understand the process and when they can get involved. As your next county commissioner, what I plan to do is to make sure that the county is updating their comprehensive plan, which is the plan that lays out how the county will grow for the future, which has not been updated since 2006. I also want to enact a Citizens Planning Bill of Rights, which makes sure to lay out how citizens are involved in the process and gets them involved early on in the process. My whole goal is to make it transparent. As an experience that I had in my neighborhood was we had to hire our own attorney and engineer to help us understand the process of a development that we thought was going to impact our neighborhood. And I'm hearing the same type of things all over the county.
You get 30 seconds if you'd like to say anything else, Ms. Starkey.
Yes, and the county has done some steps to help the citizens learn how more to be involved. I actually was the one who got us to start the Citizens Academy. It's a free program, and we encourage everyone to sign up for it. We do 1 a year. We were doing 2, but we may go back to that. And our citizens can learn the process of how your local government works, because there is no place where you can learn that. They don't teach it in school. So we do hold meetings all around the county all the time, and we advertise them, but it's tough for our citizens to find it and come. But we do that.
Thank you. I'm going to sort of stick with that idea. Ms. Starkey mentioned the environmental lands that have been purchased. I'm going to turn a little bit with the Penny for Pasco. That's going to be coming up for possible renewal pretty soon. And I'm just wondering how you see that money. If first, we should actually go for a renewal in Pasco County. Second, if the money should be set aside in a certain way, and if you think that perhaps more environmental land protection should be part of that equation.
Absolutely. I think that we should continue Penny for Pasco. I think we need to focus on preservation. What I plan to do as your next Pasco County Commissioner is to create a citizen advisory committee for environmental and preservation issues to make sure that the citizens are involved in the process. I know we have an environmental lands acquisition and management citizen advisory committee, but we need a group that's more diverse, looking at the whole picture. The wildlife corridors ordinance is great, but there are some holes in it. For example, my neighborhood is in one of those wildlife corridors, and the development next to us, which is also in that corridor, was supposed to be preserved, but it was developed. I think we need to look at the wildlife corridors again. A lot has changed since that ordinance and that study was put in place. So it's time that we put an emphasis on the lands that need to be preserved. I think in Northeast Rural Pasco, it is great that we have that overlay district and that ordinance, but we need to make sure that we have completed the ordinance. We are missing the commercial preservation part and making sure that the development for commercial properties are laid out appropriately in the Northeast Rural area. What I envision for that area is working with the stakeholders in that area and making sure that that gets done before any more projects get approved for development. They were a part of the process originally, and they need to continue to be part of that process. I also envision putting in Northeast Rural Pasco a horse park, which would bring, tourism and boost our economy if we were to use that land out there like they do in Marion County, bring runs and events to the area and showcase the land that we still have in Northeast Pasco. Thank you.
Ms. Starkey.
So your question was about the penny for Pasco?
The penny for Pasco, whether it should be renewed and how the money should be used.
So yes, the penny for Pasco will be up in a couple years, and right now that penny is split between the school district, the county, and the cities in the county. And 40% of our money, the county money, we collect 40%. The school district gets 40, and the 10 is split. So and part of that goes to ELAMP, part of that goes to transportation, and part of that goes to economic development, and all three of those are important. They're just all important. So I do think we need to renew that. I think probably the percentage is good. We encourage more and more landowners to do conservation easements. That saves a lot of money and lets our dollar stretch. But the school district needs their money. We need the money for transportation. And that money that we have for economic development is a great tool to help us build our economy.
Would you like your 30?
Yeah, what I would like to say is that I would like to bring 1,000 Friends of Florida's 2070 project to Pasco County, which is a way to do the comprehensive plan and make sure that we are conserving our lands at 50-50 and making sure that we're involving the citizens and where the preservation of lands should go.
Okay.
I think that was 30 seconds.
I think it was. We had a little bit
tried to
of
keep it
bell
short.
action over there, so that's okay.
We're getting it together.
We're good.
It's okay.
Okay, so now we're back to you, Ms. Starkey.
Okay.
And this is going to be a business-related question. We're sort of staying on a theme here. Amendment 2 is on the ballot. There are 6 amendments on the Florida ballot this year in November. This one would set a $15 minimum wage for Florida. And I am just curious what your view is of this proposal, whether you support it or not. If so, why?
Well, I don't like government mandates. I would like as less as possible. So I don't think I would be in support of that. I think it would put a lot of businesses out and a lot of people out of jobs. So we have a small business and we give a great wage, I think, to our employees. But I don't think that we would want to be mandated. I think that's a dangerous road to go down when you do such a big jump. But I do see us moving it up, gradually. But to jump in 1 year would hurt small businesses, and that is the mom and pop of America and the mom and pop of our, county. That's the backbone of our economy, and it would not be good for our workforce. So, yeah, I would not be in favor of Amendment 2. That's fine.
That's your question?
I don't need to go somewhere.
Thank you. What I'm hearing from constituents is that they want higher paying jobs. They want a higher minimum wage. I definitely agree with that, and I would like to see it happen. I want to make sure that we are supporting our small businesses. So as your next Pasco County Commissioner, I want to look at the things that are a cost burden to them, like local regulations that are imposing restrictions on them, such as the landscape ordinance, which right now during times of COVID, having to put in plants and maintain them and pay utility bills is sometimes a burden on our small businesses. What we also need to look at is streamlining the permitting process for small businesses that want to expand. What I'm also hearing is that they're having a problem going through the permitting process and wanting to expand their businesses so they have more outdoor room. I think we need to make sure that the local regulations are not a burden.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that I've been very involved in the county, in the state, and nationally, actually, is workforce training. And so my answer to people who are at a minimum wage job is, let me help you get a better job. And we have started an amazing program here called AmSkills for manufacturing training, and we're going to be branching out into construction training. But I am, and when I was on the school board, I was the champion for career academies. I am all about bringing resources to anybody who wants to help themselves get a better job.
Thank you. You all are doing great with these bells. So we can get lots of questions in, perhaps. We're back to you, Ms. Stempian. We're going to talk about the Sheriff's Office a little bit. We're talking about money and spending. I would like to know what you think is the proper level of funding for the Sheriff's Office, if we're at it now or if we need to do more. And related to that, your thoughts on the reports that we've seen about some of the interesting, shall we call them, intelligence-based police programs that the Sheriff's Office has been using.
Well, what I'm about is making sure we are involving the citizens in the process. So what I plan on doing as your next Pasco County Commissioner is forming a group similar to what they're doing in St. Petersburg, which is called the People's Budget Review, pulling citizens and residents together to look at the budget, making sure that the budget is transparent and that they make recommendations to the board on how they see the budget to be spent. They can also hold budget summits so that the residents are aware of the entire process. Currently, a lot of items happen by consent for budget approval, so they do have workshops, but I think we can be more transparent as a county as far as what we're spending our money on, including the sheriffs, because 50% of our general revenue goes to the sheriffs. Now, I definitely support what the sheriff is doing with the mental health assessment team, the opioid task force, and all the different things that they're trying to do in the community to rehabilitate people and support them. What I don't support, and what it appears to be happening based on that article, is the harassment of law-abiding citizens that have gone through the process. We want everyone in our county to feel safe, whether they have been, convicted of a felon or been through the system or not. And we want them to be able to have services provided to them to help them, not harm them and make them feel that they have to move out of this county to get away from what is happening. So I support the Sheriff's Office and what they're trying to do in the community. I think that residents need to be involved in making decisions about how our money is spent, and we as a board need to listen to them. And I think we can do a better job as a community as having that dialogue.
Thank you. Ms. Starkey.
So the question was, how was it phrased about the sheriff? Sorry.
Well, first I asked whether you see any changes needed basically in the sheriff's funding and whether it's funded at the proper level. And then secondly, what you think about the reports that we've seen on the way that they are collecting information on certain people and
intelligent-led policing.
Yes, correct.
Our sheriff's office a couple years ago was very underfunded, and we were training deputies, and they were leaving to go to Hillsborough and Pinellas for a much higher wage. They used to send me their paychecks, and they'd show me the deputies that have left versus us, and it was shocking, the difference. So, a couple years ago, we actually had to raise the millage to get some extra money to pay our sheriffs a competitive wage. But our sheriff's department is we give them $103 per person, and in the other counties, it's almost $3. So I think our sheriff is doing an amazing job with his low budget. The intelligent-led policing, I think, has some very good aspects to it, and I appreciate them working with the county with code enforcement, because we don't have enough code enforcement officers, #1 issue in my district. But I do think that sometimes maybe some have been a little overzealous, and we don't want harassment of our citizens. We just want everyone to feel safe and comfortable.
Thank you. Would you like to respond, Ms. Stempian?
Yeah, I just want to say I support, funding for mental health and rehabilitation and substance use and all those organizations that provide those services. We need to keep that going. But like I said before, we need to keep the citizens involved in the budget process and making sure what we're spending our money on is appropriate.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Starkey, we're back to you.
Okay.
I think what's been on a lot of people's minds has been coronavirus and this pandemic and our response to it. And I'm just curious how you see the county moving forward now with some of the changes that we've seen in the state government, and how long we're going to be doing things such as mask mandates, and if also you see the county needing to do anything special for its businesses, its communities, or its people.
So, yeah, I do. My office, my staff and I, we put out a COVID newsletter every day. We have our own graphs in there, and I collect information that I think is really important to our constituents here in the county. I have actually 10,000 people on that email list, and so I am very aware of the numbers and the graphs and the charts. And today we had 91 new cases in Pasco County. That is a lot. That we haven't had that number since August 18th. So I think it's important that we continue the mask mandate for a while. But I will tell you that Pasco County took I think a very hands-off approach compared to many of the other big counties in the state. And I'm really proud of that. We didn't shut any businesses, but we did encourage the social distancing and all those things that help keep the spread down. I don't think we fined anybody, but we gave out a lot of warnings. I know in our small business that our employees would not feel comfortable if people were coming up to the cash register all the time not wearing masks. So, a lot of them are young kids, and they're paying for college, and they want to stay employed and they want to stay safe. So we did a poll, and 80% of the county still likes the masks. I know I get a lot of emails about people who don't want it, but you're only required to wear it when you're 6 feet away from someone or walking inside a building. Of course, businesses can opt to make that stricter. So I think we still have a ways to go. And sadly, I have many friends who have family members who've died from COVID, and I take it seriously. I have a son with asthma, and I take that responsibility very heavily, and it's not easy to ask people to wear masks. It's not always comfortable, but I think it's the right thing to do and to help keep our community safe.
Thank you. Ms. Stempian.
Yeah, I agree with the face covering ordinance. Since they adopted it, the cases went down by 72%. The face covering ordinance has also helped some of the businesses here. Patrons feel comfortable coming to our hotels and our places of business because we have this face covering ordinance. In fact, the hotel occupancy rates were up this month and almost at the same place they were last year because people feel safe coming to our county because of this face covering ordinance. I think it's important that we continue to do it for the safety of our teachers, our students, and our elderly and vulnerable people in this county. I also want to, when I'm county commissioner, provide a liaison at the county to take complaints from businesses about what they're running into with this ordinance and provide a forum for exchanging information and how we can better support them through it.
Starkey.
The other thing I'm very proud about what we did, and I was the one who kind of led the charge, was to make sure that we could pass out money and resources to our community, whether it be the businesses or constituents who couldn't pay their rent. We're going to lose their car, their phone. We've pushed out millions and millions of dollars, and I think we're a model county for the country in how we dealt with our CARES money.
Thank you. How many questions do we have left, or how much time do we have left, I should ask?
It's 5. So this is probably the last question.
My last question? All right, we'll give you a nice softball question.
Who's
For
am I
both
first?
of you.
Okay.
We're going to start with you, Ms. Stempian. You would be new to the commission, and so I would like to know what you would be your primary priority. If you could do one thing and one thing only on the commission, what would it be, and why would you do it?
I'm running because my community, who is suffering from stormwater and flooding, has encouraged me to run, and I know that there's 15 other neighborhoods, at least 15 other neighborhoods, would be around about 4,000 homes in this county that are also suffering from stormwater and flooding. For me, it's about comprehensive action planning for those neighborhoods and looking at the paths forward. It's not just about one tool like a non-ad valorem assessment that's going to solve the problem. It's a bunch of tools. I want to strengthen our partnerships with non-governmental agencies like the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay, the Funders Network, and see how they can help our neighborhoods who are suffering, coach them along the way in the process. I also want to make sure that we're leveraging state funds. There's at least $40 million available through the Department of Economic Opportunity for projects just like in our neighborhood. I have talked to a consultant that has said that that money is available and it looks like it would fit you, which if it's going to fit our neighborhood, it's going to fit those other 15 other neighborhoods, and we need to take advantage of that. I want to make sure we have somebody at the county dedicated to investigating those grants, writing those grants, and working with the communities to solve the problems. So that is my sole goal. It's not my only goal because it's all tied into a lot of other stuff, right? Development. So I want to make sure that along with the comprehensive action planning, we're updating our comprehensive plan with the citizens using 1,000 Friends of Florida's process, which is called Project 2070, and that we're enacting a Citizens Planning Bill of Rights, which involves the citizens in the development process and makes sure that they are involved early on in the process and it's clear. So those are my top priorities, which I think are all tied into one, which is stormwater and flooding.
Thank you. Ms. Starkey, you've been on the board a while, but do you have a priority, or would you like to talk about her priority?
Well, my district, it is part of that 54 corridor, but it's also Holiday and Trinity, and certainly Trinity has had its share of flooding, but we spent millions and millions of dollars there, and so far so good on the flooding in Thousand Oaks and Trinity. But flooding and stormwater issues will always take up a large part of my time. When I was on the Swift Mud board, it was very frustrating because we didn't have any money to do any stormwater projects because Pasco County didn't have the money to pay their half of the cooperative funding. So a lot of our money was going to Pinellas County, or most of it. So we're playing catch up. I actually flew in a helicopter with the Army Corps engineer, the colonel in charge of the Army Corps, showing him where our flooding issues were and asking for their help. But frankly, they told us it would be cheaper to buy the houses out that get water inside them rather than the Army Corps come in and spend that money. So we continue, though, to work with Swift Mud. My one project that I could ask for from the legislature last year was a flooding project, but it got vetoed. So.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, I thought that was closing statement.
No, we have.
Okay,
you
yeah,
should
no,
get a
it was
closing
30
statement.
seconds.
You're still
Totally
good.
my bad, and I probably just used my 30 seconds. But I just want to say that I think it's important that we continue to work with the residents and map out the process with them on how we're going to fix these flooding issues. Because I mean, you're right; they are going to take a lot of time, and that's why it's important to make sure we're working on the process with them.
Okay, so now we're at the point where you get to each make your closing statements, 2 minutes, and we will start with you, Ms. Stempian.
Yes, so I just want to remind everyone I am Jessica Stempian, candidate running for Pasco County Commissioner in District 3, and I am a mom, a meeting facilitator, environmental scientist, a community advocate. And I think I'm different than my opponent because I've started, I've been working for 20 years in government at the local, regional, and state levels. And I started at the bottom and worked my way up through management, and then onto a different path for meeting facilitation where I bring people together and try to solve complex issues. I'm also very active in my community. As a mom, I was a leader and creator of a 4-H club called Lutz Leaders, where we taught youth leadership skills. We brought in a farmer to bring in produce every month and teach the kids how to cook, and we taught them about environmental stewardship, where we took them all around the county to different parks and taught them how to identify the trees and the habitat. So I am here because of the coalition in my neighborhood, because I know there's other neighborhoods out there just like ours to work on stormwater and flooding, preserving our rural Florida and what's left, and managing growth. And I just want to show people that I'm not willing to sit on the sidelines when I see change that needs to happen, and that I'm here to try to get some stuff done with the residents and represent what they need. Thank you.
Ms. Starkey,
So how much time do we have for
you
closing?
have 2 minutes.
Okay, so yes, it's been a fast 8 years, and I'm looking forward to 4 more. As a small business owner and a mom, and now a grandmother of 3, I'm very invested in making sure that this county is the best it could be in the state of Florida, and that's kind of our strategic plan is to be the best county in Florida. And I also served on the state and regional and local levels. Long before I ever was a paid person in government, I volunteered and was appointed State Greenways and Trails Council, SwiftMud. I'm graduate of the Water Leadership Institute at University of South Florida. And I just put a lot of time in before I ever became an elected official because it's my passion to make this place better. But over the last 8 years, I've been able to really have a voice in Tallahassee for change and at the national level. I now chair the workforce board at the National Association of Counties, and I get to deal with HUD and FEMA and all those departments up in Washington. And I've actually been able to make changes that better the whole country, not just Florida and Pasco County. One of the projects that I'm working on is bringing federal money to buy out flooded homes on the Elfers Parkway. So that's part of that DEO CDBG money. And so I think that I've shown a history of hard work, of getting things done, and making this county the best it could be. So I look forward to having your vote, and we'll continue to work hard for you and to make sure that this county, as it's growing fast, grows in a great way. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's the end of our debate for County Commission District 3, and we will be moving on to District 5 momentarily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our next candidate forum for the November 3rd general election that's coming up. These are organized by the Public Policy Committee of the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce and also by the West Pasco Board of Realtors, who is also our host here in their nice building. It is being broadcast by John Gaston of WeBeam TV, and you can find it on Facebook Live with both the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce site or the West Pasco Board of Realtors site. We have a couple of sponsors, one of which is ServPro of West Pasco, and another one is Coldwell Banker F.I. Gray and Son Residential Realty. And with that is Greg Armstrong, who also happens to be the chairman of the Public Policy Committee. And Greg, how about telling us a little bit about Coldwell Banker F.I. Gray and Son?
Well, we're the oldest real estate company in Pasco County, and in fact, we're the oldest real estate company in the state of Florida. We, in just 3 short years, will be 100 years old, and we're very proud of that. And what we found out in the pandemic is 2 things that are important tonight. Number 1 is the value of home. It's so important where you live and in your surroundings and everything about that home, because we found out that it's so important during a pandemic and any time, and for that matter. And also our freedom in this country to vote. And that's why both the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce and the West Pasco Board of Realtors sponsored this event, because we want informed voters. We want to get people out to vote, because that's what makes our society great. And Bruce, I want to thank you for what you're doing tonight, and all the volunteers that are helping make this such a success tonight.
All righty. Well, thank you, Greg. And the moderator for tonight is Jeff Solacek of the Tampa Bay Times. Jeff has been with the Tampa Bay Times for over 20 years as the educational reporter, and he's done this a few times before, and he has a whole bunch of good questions. The format is, for the next debate, which is County Commission District 5, which is pretty much Northwest Pasco, will be each candidate will have a 3-minute opening statement. We had a coin flip beforehand to see who went first and second, but they'll have a 3-minute opening statement, and then they will get alternating questions from Jeff. And the first candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. The opposing candidate will have 1 minute to respond, and then it goes back to the original candidate for a 30-second rebuttal. So it's 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then back for 30 seconds. We have a ServPro timer light here that has different lights. The green light turns on when there's 1 minute left. The yellow light turns on when there's 30 seconds left, and the red light goes on when there's 15 seconds left. And at the end of the debate, we ring the bell. You do not need to take your whole time. You're welcome to make a short answer, and if you do that, we'll probably get more questions in. With that, our candidates are Brandy Goyette and also Jack Mariano, who is the incumbent Republican.
I won the coin toss.
Mr. Mariano won the coin toss. You get to go first.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you hosting this debate tonight so we can get the word out as far as what we stand for our candidates. I'm very happy to be here. I've been a county commissioner since 2004, when we had all sorts of hurricanes that were going on, and got a pretty good education about how important stormwater management was. Also got a good education to listening to constituents every step of the way as you kind of go out there and find out what's going on. I'm very proud of my service since 2004. I was going to campaign on 2 basic principles. One was for economic development, taking Pasco from being a bedroom community to become much more economic independent. I also wanted to focus on constituent service, which I thought was critical needs for the county. And in doing so in the past several years, I'm proud to say with our strategic plan, with our economic development plan, the general operation of the county commission, we have done all of those things. We've got a great functioning board that talks things through as 5. We go through, and it's been functioning very well. When I consider that I picked Pasco County several years ago, 25 years ago, to be the place where I was going to raise my family, been very happily married for over 28 years now. My wife and I have raised 2 wonderful daughters that are doing fantastic in their own careers, their own lives, and we're very, very pleased. I think Pasco County has been a great place to raise the family, but I'm even more excited about the future coming up. With all the jobs we're creating, with all the benefits for the community coming up, our infrastructure for transportation is coming through. Those who've seen us struggle a little bit, try to get Ridge Road for 20-some-odd years. We finally got that road through, and had the paperwork been done a little differently years ago, it would have been a very easy road to go through, but the end result is that we learned that by raising the road up, we could minimize environmental impact, we'd make the road safer, and definitely more advantageous for all the people here. So everyone who's commuting 52 and 54, you're going to find some relief coming up in the future. The contractor's way ahead of schedule. They've contracted for the interchange, so we're seeing some great things happen. Great companies like Mettler Toledo coming in. Touchpoint Medical is another one that's come in. Lots of other jobs. Moffett coming in with 15,000 jobs. It's really an exciting time to be a county commissioner. We have so many great projects going on. We've got a great relationship with all our constitutional officers, school board members, and working together to better this community every step of the way. And I think, you know, our goal was a few years ago to become a premier community, county, and I can tell you clearly we are making those steps every step of the way, and very excited about that. Thank you.
Ms. Goyette, you have 3 minutes.
All right. So I have lived in Pasco County for the past 11 years. I've worked in social work here. I have dealt firsthand with all of the issues that the majority of the people in Pasco County deal with and are currently dealing with post-COVID, as well as in the world of COVID. We are seeing an increase in our poverty level that we're not addressing at this time. Yes, we are supposedly bringing in other jobs, but yet we have parents who are struggling at this time with the debate of, do they online school their child or do they take a job? I've had to have this tough conversation with a lot of different parents at this time. I've been reaching out to people, to citizens that are constantly ignored and neglected by the current elected officials. Citizens who feel like nobody that is elected seems to care about what's happening to them. Citizens that were frustrated with the fact that a mask mandate was put in place by a county employee because our elected officials were too scared to face the constituents and actually talk about what they were doing. This is frustrating. This is concerning. We need individuals out there that aren't just worried about plowing through wilderness to put in a road that goes to nowhere that's just going to add to traffic congestion, because trees actually improve the environment more than a road. We got to have actual elected officials that understand that bird poop is not the reason that our waterways are polluted. We need to start working on solutions to solve some of these problems. It's nice to say that we're interested in fixing the stormwater maintenance problems as well as the drainage, but at the same time, I can show you culverts in this county that haven't been touched since 1975. That's 45 years. How do I know that? Because I am 45 years old. There's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. Maintenance that we can fix to help improve the flooding issues that a lot of our constituents are having here. People need to know that elected officials actually care about what's going on. We should not be #1 in hepatitis A, B, and C in the state of Florida because we have a substance abuse problem that we're not dealing with. When we talk about all of these things, it impacts directly all of the small businesses because employees become an issue. When we talk about all of these things, poverty is directly fueling all of this, and we need someone in there that actually wants to take a hard look at everything that's going on and start working with the people of Pasco, forming CRAs on the west side to actually make sure tax dollars are spent on the west side of Pasco. It's time for us to get elected officials that actually care about what's happening to the people of Pasco and don't just show up every 4 years and make these weird, vague promises. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for questions. And Mr. Mariano, you get the first question. You'll get 2 minutes. Ms. Goyette, you'll get 1 minute to respond, and you'll get 30 seconds back, Mr. Mariano, to respond to anything you want. And then we'll go back and forth.
All right.
We'll start off with this question. You had mentioned growth and development, so let's talk about that. There's been a tremendous amount of growth in Pasco County, and yet as more people move here, we also hear about some of their concerns that there's too much traffic, maybe you're taking away some of the green space, and I'm curious how you would do whatever you would do to balance the quality of life aspects with the growth and development aspects to make this be the best Pasco County it can be.
Well, what we've done in Pasco County, I think, is to take a close look at where we want to go in the future. And transportation is a big factor. That's why roads such as the Ridge Road extension were so critical. And if you study what the history was when we did the Suncoast Parkway, that road was supposed to be set up the same time to be done the same way. So it's the same environment, same preserve. That was going to have 6,500 homes, over 250 acres of commercial development. When you factor all that in, we did the good thing by protecting that years ago. We just didn't properly set up the roadway to be not an irony, but just a regular roadway that would have been with the proper right-of-way. When we look at quality of life, it means how much time do you spend in the car? How much time do you spend driving down to Pinellas County or Hillsborough County and get stuck in traffic? And the job of the county commissioner is to try to bring wealth to the county so that people can have better jobs, spend less time in their cars, and improve their quality of life by being able to spend more time with their families. So I think the focus of us by creating all these jobs locally has been a big focus, and that's why we even use the second time around at the voters' approval, penny for Pasco money for economic development purposes, such as bringing Mettler Toledo, Touchpoint, high-paying jobs that can be great for the community. Moffett even led the way, and when we did the Moffett project, it's going to be 15,000 high-paying jobs. It's also protected 845 acres of environmental land. I dare anyone to go compare other counties that have protected as much land as we've protected in the past 15 years.
Ms. Goyette, it's to you.
All right, so I hear it all the time. Traffic is horrible, especially along 54 and 52. We don't have a traffic plan. They've in the past delayed so that they could build Ridge Road, which was directly through a nature preserve given to the people of Pasco in perpetuity. I'm pretty sure that the definition of perpetuity hasn't changed over the past 20-some years. At the same time, when we're talking about these jobs that they're bringing in, these high-paying jobs, the question becomes, how many were promised to residents of Pasco County? What is the percentage of jobs promised to residents of Pasco County? Or are we going to be continuing to recruit from other counties to bring in those people to fill those positions?
Do you have a response?
And I'm proud to say that, you know, when you have to deal with big issues of the county, you got to look at everything. When you look at all the people from Pinellas County, when they have to evacuate, if everything was clogged up, they'd have to come through Pasco County, through 54 and 52. When you look at now that we have the Ridge Road extension, which was a planned road, which is now elevated high enough that it only had 2.6 acres of development, wetland impact on it, we're in much better shape with that road. That will take the stress off 52, 54. So the same people may complain about that extension, also we're fighting what was going to relieve the traffic on 52 and 54.
That was really good. You get right into the bell. Let's talk about the penny for Pasco. It was brought up. It will be coming up for possible renewal in a couple of years. What is your take on whether it should come up for renewal? And if it does get approved, where would you think the money should best be spent, and how should it be divided?
Well, we need to renew the penny for Pasco, but at the same time, we need to also make sure that we're paying attention to where it's being spent. It was not designated for parks, and yet under this commission, they purchased a large park development in the east side of Pasco County, wasting a large portion of it. And when you talk to county employees, they talk about how it is already overspent. We used a lot of it to bail out individuals during the COVID crisis, especially small businesses. We have now overspent that penny for Pasco, and at the same time, with no gas tax revenue, with no actual sales tax revenue coming in, the coffers aren't filling up as fast as what the county had hoped that they would. We need to start working on things like filling in the gaps in the social services area, where we are dealing with a lot of the issues with substance abuse along the west side and homelessness, issues that we pretend don't exist, and yet they continue to get better. Just ignoring these issues does not make them go away. You need to actually work with the programs that actually work with those individuals to help get them a hand up and out of that situation. When we talk about everything else going on, we also need to make sure that our fire departments are fully funded, as well as our schools. We have to make sure that we're taking care of the people of Pasco County, and that starts also with that future generation. So we need to start looking at how it is spent, who gets the larger portion, and who is the most in need.
Mr. Mariano.
Well, I appreciate the question about the penny for Pasco, because when I was first elected is when it first got passed, so we had the big burden of trying something new that we've never used before as far as spending money voted on by the voters in Pasco County. I'm proud to say that we spent the money so well, they overwhelmingly approved it to go again. And this time, and I'm happy to say I planted the seed as far as to try to work on putting money towards economic development, which they did. And that has led to even more job creation every step of the way. So when you build these target industries, when you create these jobs and you spend money efficiently, effectively, so you're helping all the facilities around that are going to benefit from it, the voters reward you with other things. And if you'll study what we have just in the last election, they actually voted for the GO bonds, for parks, for libraries, for the sheriff's jail, for the fire department. So I think we're spending the money the right way. I'm very, very pleased what we've done, and that the voters have confidence in us to continue to do so.
So if we had to put in a bond initiative and tax our citizens again, were we really spending penny for Pasco the way that it was supposed to? Especially since those fire departments were supposed to have been built 15 years before.
Okay. Let's turn to the funding for the sheriff's office and talk about that. Is it at the proper level that it needs to be? Does it need to be more or less? And what would you do with that budget? And as a connected point to that, what do you think about the sheriff's intelligence-based policing program?
Okay. I think the sheriff's budget is well funded. We wanted to do that years ago. We were losing deputies by, they'd go to different counties, et cetera. So we put together a 3-year plan to raise the deputies' pay up, gradually to go through, so we didn't affect the budget too dramatically, but at the same time, it sent a message out there to the people, the deputies in the sheriff's office, that we wanted to help them. We wanted to keep those people here. We wanted to show them support. So we worked very closely with the sheriff's office, worked with our administration to actually go raise up the pay of all the deputies, so our first responders did get compensated well, and they didn't leave, and we did spend more money training them. So I would say that since that point in time, we've funded the sheriff's department very well, and I would say you cannot question, I don't think at this point in time, how we're spending the money, in the sense of it is such a desperate time with all the riots and everything that's going around this country. We have our citizens so well protected, and we need to stand behind these guys every step of the way to tell them we back you. We stand behind you. We're with you. We're going to keep you funded so that you can keep us safe. Because let's face it, when you look at every situation we have, you can have the greatest streets in the world, the greatest parks, the greatest libraries, but if you're not safe in your own home, safe in your own streets, then what have you really got? So as far as that goes, I think we're in great shape. As far as the intelligent-led policing, I know what the article was out there the other day, but I will say this. They look at where the troublemakers are, and they will go and they will pester the troublemakers. They will go over and over again. If they think a crime's been committed in a certain one, and maybe that person's committed the same crime 6 or 7 times, that will lead them to go down that way. So maybe some people are going to get hassled by it, but I will tell you the majority of good citizens don't cause any trouble, never even know about this program, and never get affected by it.
Thank you. Ms. Goyette.
All right, so no, I don't feel like we should automatically be guaranteeing our Sheriff's Department 50% of our tax dollars. If we're claiming that our neighborhoods are safe, then why is it that Embassy Hills, for example, recently had 3 gunshot issues in Embassy Hills within a month? Within a month, 3 individuals with gunshots in Embassy Hills, District 5. Here's the thing. They are already doing social work. They're already dealing with Narcan. These are not issues that our Sheriff's Department should be dealing with. It's not something that they're trained for. They're dealing with issues with homelessness, with substance abuse, with overdoses, things that they shouldn't be dealing with. But at the same time, we are forcing them to because we have underfunded the programs that help them to bail things out. When we talk about everything else going on, our Sheriff's Department needs help with having individuals that are trained in social work as well as other things to deal with the other issues that they shouldn't be dealing with. And I know my time. I did it.
You have 30 seconds.
All right, and I'm happy to say that, you know, part of the things you try to work with the Sheriff's Office, you need cooperation together to try to find what the issues are and how to deal with it. When you look at what's going on nationwide, most of your jails have become mental health centers. I'm happy to say the new jail coming in, we're dealing with mental health, substance abuse, all working together to bring it together to solve the issue as best we can. So we are working on the right situation, right solution.
Thank you. Ms. Goyette, you get the next question. You've raised the issue of homelessness among other issues in this county, and I'm just curious how you would think the county should address those problems.
Well, the first thing is we need an actual homeless shelter here in Pasco County. One that actually embraces the Housing First program that works nationwide. A place to bring people in so as that we're able to port them into the systems that help to get them off the streets. When we talk about all of these things, if you don't have the main pipeline in, you can't keep bringing people in because people wander, they get lost, they get kicked out of their places that they're staying. At the same time, how are social workers supposed to be able to continuously track individuals if they go to the same place they used to encamp and not be able to find them the next week because they've been pushed out? When we talk about all of these things, if we don't have an actual port into the system that certain commissioners have fought tooth and nail to put there, we're going to continue to see these encampments. We're going to continue to see homeless individuals sleeping on the businesses' porches. When we talk about all of these things, if you want to actually solve the problem of homelessness, we need to actually start funding affordable housing as well as building a homeless shelter. Taking some of our abandoned storefronts along US 19 and working towards making them a place where we can actually start working on housing the homeless, getting them off the streets. Because when you have individuals into housing, it actually boosts the economy. And it's a lot cheaper to put them into housing than it is to put them in the Land O'Lakes jail.
Mr. Mariano.
The homelessness is a big issue. And I will tell you, one of the things, and most of the time I'm very much agreeing with the Board of County Commissioners, the things we're doing, but that was one issue that I really didn't agree with. To go spend $1.5 million on an old teen shelter and a Boys and Girls Club, I didn't think was the right move, and I fought that every step of the way. I'd fight it again today. I think it was better to keep your kids busy, keep them out of trouble, better for everything around. As far as the homelessness people go, I mean, you got to build housing. You got to make affordable housing. I'm very proud of the project on Leisure Lane, Van Duren by Gulf Harbors. That was a disaster for many, many years. We took down, worked with Habitat for Humanity, which I serve on the board of. We took down 51 lots, breaking it all down through, potential for homes to come in, where people can actually have home ownership. When we took down the last segment with all the drugs that were out there on the side, we actually reached out to every person down there. There was like 30 of them that were in there. We asked them all for assistance. We offered. We even had the Housing Coalition manager go down there and try to get some help. Some of the people just don't want help. But as far as stretching out with our resources, I think we're trying to do the best we can. We even just cut down fees to make it more affordable.
All right, so yes, so the homeless shelter that would have been built in Embassy Hills, the residents of Embassy Hills actually embraced it because at the same time, we see what is going on. We see individuals getting evicted from their homes, and it's going to be getting worse. I am watching it very slowly and carefully, especially talking to people who have no idea where to access services now because they never thought they would be in this situation.
Mr. Mariano, you've spoken a lot about business and development, bringing in new jobs. I'm curious how you see Amendment 2 on the November 3rd ballot, which is to create a minimum wage of $15 statewide.
I don't see the need for that. I don't think it's the right way to do it. You might even cause your unemployment rates to go up because people can't afford to pay regular jobs $15 an hour. What I like to do is to try to work on what we can do to increase the number of jobs we have available, drive up the demand so it becomes more expensive to hire people because there's a better demand. So in basic economics, I think it's better not to do that.
All right, so when I first started working at minimum wage, it was $3.75 an hour, and that was, well, almost 30 years ago now. So the fact that it's not at $15 an hour to meet the cost of inflation is very, very concerning. When we talk about everything else, and trickle-down economics has never worked, when you bail out the consumer bails out small businesses. It's been proven when people get raises, like in unionization and union-led jobs, they are actually able to spend. We are a consumer-driven economy here in the United States, and if the consumers do not have money, they don't spend and push the economy forward.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would say that, you know, we try to work on projects where we're improving our vocational skills programs quite a bit. AM Skills has been a great success. We've got more programs going on like that. If someone's going to increase their income, they shouldn't just look to stay at the same job, but to improve their education, their value to the workforce, and then raise your income that way. To take away so many jobs because of that $15 threshold would be detrimental to our economy, especially right here in Pasco County.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Goyette, you would be new to the commission, so I'm curious, you would have anything in front of you, what would be your #1 priority to accomplish, and how would you get there?
My first priority would be to establish a CRA covering the communities on the west side that actually need work in their communities, such as stormwater drainage, sidewalk maintenance, all of these things that they've been promised for the past 16 years and yet haven't seen. Actual work and improvement of their water quality, actual work and improvement of their area to try and just fix the issues that they're dealing with. But at the same time, we continue to spend along the 54 corridor, ignoring the citizens along the US 19 corridor and pretend that they don't have problems at all.
Now, you've been on the commission for quite a while. Do you have priorities that you have yet to accomplish?
Well, I'll say that the past several years have been great, but I'm even more excited about the future. I'm very excited about the accomplishments with stormwater. If you go down to Ironbark, if you go down to Gray Birch, if you go down to Jasmine Lakes, if you go down to all sorts of other areas that we've fixed this stormwater. We just did another one down at Ashwood Drive over in Gulf Highlands. All those areas that had suffered for so many years and not had the attention have now got the attention. Colonial Hills by Gulfview Mall used to flood all the time. It sat above the canal. We put a pipe in the ground. That pipe system has worked in a couple of different areas. So I'm excited. Sea Pines is going to get some help coming up. We've got a plan for that. But you have to do engineering. It takes time to do all these things. But that stormwater utility, which came in after I got elected, we passed it in '06, has been a great funder, and now we're starting to get maintenance done like we've never before, and we're getting projects done like never before. So I think you can show we've got a great track record. We've got a great team out there doing a phenomenal job.
So if we're talking about that area in Gulf Highlands, it's very interesting. With the last rain, they posted pictures in the Gulf Highlands chat of most of that area being underwater, and saying that they were contacting the commissioners about turning on the pumps to make sure that that got dumped out. You could watch individuals' cars getting flooded out and their homes. And yeah, they said they called and called and called, and no one answered.
Okay, our next question is going back to you, Mr. Mariano. And you've talked about these water projects and the dredging projects and things of that nature, and I'm just curious how you see that moving forward and how you convince people who don't live over there that that's where their money should be spent.
Well, as far as the dredging goes up and down the coast, I've been working on it for 4 years. We had our first meeting with people all the way from Bailey's Bluff to Sunwest and Sea Pines included in that area, Driftwood, Westport, all these communities that have tough access getting out to water. And I'm very pleased to say we just found out that everything built before April 3rd, 1970 has a chance to become under an exemption from the regular dredging permitting process, which means mitigation process, which means seagrass, which means avoiding the DEP and the Army Corps. We can be exempt from doing all that. Brings down the cost dramatically, speeds up the construction every step of the way. I see that as probably the biggest project we have coming up right now on the west side. And when you can change the demographics to the west side, increase the property values, it's going to go a long way. Hudson Channel was a channel that was permitted before I was elected. The Army Corps never told us this, and let's say told me this as we were going through, but they wanted to actually see a wider channel. We found out that through our research that they were actually 75 foot wide at the bottom, and that will be a much better channel width for us in the future. So when I look at us doing the dredging up and down the area, taking out these canals, it's going to improve the water quality. It's also going to improve the values of properties up and down. It's going to improve the demographics, which will help the retail, which will take high executives wanting to live on the water. It'll make Pasco County that much more attractive. It is something we haven't done for many years, but I think that will help everywhere around. Thank you.
I watched that county commission meeting, and in fact, I'm pretty sure you were told by the staff that you are not allowed to have Pasco County take on the permitting process just to avoid the DEP, the seagrass mitigation, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. When we talk about the dredging and the fact that there's a proposed MSTU and an MSBU of $11.65 million that will be impacting everybody on this side of Little Road, instead of just impacting the individuals that reside on the canals. And I understand why you all are trying to do it that way, because increasing people's tax dollars by $20 versus the $2,000 that it would possibly cost on those individuals living along the canals. And especially since most of the individuals residing on the canals are under the impression that you've alluded that it would be free for them to have it done because the county would figure it out. Well, apparently it's to raise the rest of our tax dollars.
And the way we're looking at to pay for it is every which way we can. The BP Restore Act money is out there. There's actual funding money from the state for a water quality project, which dredging these canals would do. There's a John Chafee Fund, which is a federal grant that's out there. There's oyster programs that are out there that actually filter the water. All those programs that are out there we're going to take a look at. When we look at the MSU, I didn't want to go out to the size of Little Road. They think if it increases the value, and MSBU is good. This will go through a full public hearing process. We're going to study everything and make sure we get the support of the voters.
Thank you. We haven't yet talked about something that's on everybody's minds. I think we all came in with our masks on. The COVID-19 and the pandemic and the response that the county has had to deal with. I'm curious if you could talk about what you think about the mask mandate and what you think the county needs to do in order to help people who may have been hurt by the virus and the economic changes that we saw as a result of it.
Well, I am very much in support of the mask mandate. I worked in public health for years. I worked with AIDS patients here in Pasco County. I dealt with individuals with tuberculosis, and I can tell you that all of the ICUs are currently using TB protocols, the exact same things that we've had to use with talking with doctors with infectious disease. I actually support individuals that are in medical science and not Facebook memes for my actual knowledge of science. Here's the thing. I don't believe we should have put Dan Biles out to basically hang out to dry and hide behind him, because it is the county commissioner's job to explain to the constituents why they voted for a mask mandate behind closed doors at the emergency meeting. Also, to bail out the small businesses, we need to start looking and getting a little creative, because a lot of people are afraid to go to work because they've got kids. And at the same time, I don't blame them. Nobody wants to sacrifice their children at this time to a virus. You have children that people are hoping will one day go into a career in sports. This is a disease that will impact your lungs, impact your heart, have lifelong implications. And are you ready to put your teenager out there? Are you ready to do that? And it's time for us to actually start getting creative with these small businesses to try and find ways to work with them, whether it be helping them expand outdoor seating areas, whether it be working on ways to make sure that their employees can work safely, as well as being there for their families. At the same time, we need to have the county that actually cares instead of pretending that it's all Dan Biles' fault.
Ms. Mariano.
And I'm happy to say that as far as voting, I actually made a motion to make it, instead of being mandatory, but to be strongly recommended. And I made that motion publicly. I've also had discussions about the effectiveness of these masks, how a cloth mask can work ineffectively through spreading a virus going through it. It does help you spittle if you cough on somebody. Talked about the N95 masks as well, and into how we should actually be looking at these surgical masks as well. So, you know, that's information from professionals, not medical professionals that necessarily don't have a medical degree that we're listening to at the County Commission, but everything going through. So I think it's something we need to study. We should talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it at the board. I think we should be doing a workshop on it, and I'm happy to have those conversations, not hiding behind Dan Biles. Matter of fact, I wish the County Commission would take control of the matter.
It's funny, the County Commission voted unanimously to give Dan Biles this power. Unanimously. Also, at the same time, when we're talking about barrier methods when it comes to a public health perspective and how barrier methods prevent the transmission of disease, we can talk about sexually transmitted disease and condoms. Condom usage has a 98% effectiveness rate as a barrier method in preventing transmission of STDs and STIs, something that's been a known fact for a long time. And as for a professional you should be listening to, it's the health department.
I want to stick with that topic of the COVID-19 response just for a little bit longer, because I wonder if there are any things that the County Commission can do for either the businesses or the community or and the general public financially or in any other way after we've seen what has happened to the budget and to the economy.
Well, I tell you, I think our staff's done a pretty good job trying to allocate money out there. Matter of fact, we put, I think it's $3.8 million for homelessness out there to try to help that rapid housing to go through, try to give people a chance to get up on their feet and go. As far as, you know, protecting yourselves, recently we just had a company called Point Distillery that just in visiting them, talking to them, they have got 20,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, large quantities, 80% protectant, that I've actually tried to get the county to go buy everything that they had. It was about $70,000 worth just to get it out there for the people that need it or the businesses that need it, because they're all struggling. I think it's important that we try to look at what's the safest way to go, what's the best way to go, and at what point do we give people the choice to either go to a place that maybe might be a little bit different as far as their restrictions go and not. I think one of the things that's been the scare factor with the mainstream media across the board is what's really going on out there, what's real. When I looked at drugs like hydroxychloroquine, which could be legal, which used to be legal before January this year, you know, free that up. Look at all the methods. Help the health industry do all the things they need to go do. I think it's very good to promote people that want to wear a mask. I think it's people that want to run a business that need to. You know, you've got restaurant cooks that if they have to wear a mask, are they going to be able to go through that system? I think it's a very difficult thing coming through, but I think as we go forward, we need to study everything. Workshops are probably good, especially coming up in the near future.
Ms. Bayat.
All right, so the COVID and basically what we can do. So the CARES Act funding was gone in less than 3 minutes when the county put it out there for the citizens. Less than 3 minutes. And there were still thousands upon thousands of citizens still in need. The county underestimates the need that we have here in Pasco County. And when we're talking about the COVID response and what we can start doing, we can start working on ways to try and work on a re-educational type of program, because a lot of these jobs are going to become online. One of the things that the county should think about doing is possibly involving in our own internet service provider to help out low-income families, because I shouldn't be seeing pictures of children sitting outside of a Taco Bell in Pasco County just so that they can access their online schooling. When we talk about all of these things, it's about the county actually paying attention to what is really going on.
Mr. Mariano.
And I think the county's done a good job spending the COVID money. And granted, when we first made our first allocation of money out there to help small businesses, we put it out there knowing what dollar amount would help them, what's going to be the quickest way to go, and how quick is it going to go. We all knew it was going to go out fast. I am happy to say that recently we even put an extra allocation in for those who couldn't make their water bills or electric bills. We put another allocation out there, and we've helped several small businesses across this county that have been benefited from it.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. One more question. The county and the school district, they sometimes work together, they sometimes work at odds with one another. Talk a little bit about the best way that they can work for the community and do what needs to be done for growth, for students, and for what Pasco County needs.
Well, we need to actually listen to the school board, especially when they come to us and tell us what they need the impact fees to be raised to, just so that they can actually provide quality education to our students, instead of just saying, well, we'll half of what you want, best of luck. At the same time, we need to actually start looking at issues that they're having, especially with overcrowding still in a lot of our schools. When we talk about the redistricting, it shouldn't just be based upon poverty levels. It should be based upon making sure that our schools are inclusive towards all students of all socioeconomic backgrounds, and not just sit there and try to say, oh, well, we need a school in Trinity, so let's do this. We need to actually start making sure that all of our students have access to a quality education. I understand that right now a lot of teachers are overwhelmed. And I've seen it. I've seen the distance learning as a parent of a second grader. I've sat there and thought to myself, wow, this teacher is going through a lot. And at the same time, we need to be stepping up to help out our schools. I came from a state where our schools were fully funded. When I told my dad, who was a single parent that raised me, that I have to bring paper towel and toilet paper to the school for my daughter so that students can have access to supplies, he was horrified. He said to me, he goes, that is the job of the school. I said, there are areas in this county where they actually ration out toilet paper to students because near the end of the year, they run out. And at the same time, certain schools have a surplus. We need to actually start working on a way to make sure that we're able to communicate a lot of these things. When we talk about what's happening, it's about a distribution of the wealth and distributing it properly. We need to actually work with the schools to make sure that they're getting all the maintenance that they need. And we also need to work with the schools to make sure that they are funded to the level that we need them to be, just like the sheriff's department.
Mr. Mariano.
Well, great thing is with the school board, we've got a great board. Great superintendent doing a great job on very difficult times right now. And we do support them every step of the way. Matter of fact, the last 2 times I believe they come in asking for impact fees, we granted the full request of what they had. I do think we can work together very well, and I think we do as far as trying to work on vocational programs together, trying to find out what's out there. I think we've got a great relationship going on. I think the benefit of trying to share parks, we did that in Connerton. We've talked about that. Matter of fact, Commissioner Starkey and I many years ago started talking that through, and we're finding results to that. When the school board wants to locate in a certain area, we try to work with them every step of the way. They are set up a little bit differently as far as impact fees than we are. They're pretty much generally collected with everyone, and they kind of share it how they need it, so they have, as an elected body, complete flexibility. But as far as working with them, I think we do a great job with it, and we've got a great relationship.
Okay.
So the last time that they came to the county commission and I watched that meeting, they were told, we won't raise the impact fees that high because if we do, developers won't develop here. And then at the same time, I've also watched in numerous county commission meetings where development fees were waived, such as the Gables at Gulfview Square.
We are at the point of closing statements, and Ms. Goyette, you get to go first, 2 minutes.
All right. So it is time for us to start electing officials in Pasco County that aren't actually afraid of the constituents, that actually would stand up for things that matter, that actually aren't afraid to say, hey, we're worried about your health, we're worried about your safety, and this is why you need to wear a mask, instead of individuals that want to kowtow and pander to an establishment in order to get votes. We need elected officials that don't show up just every 4 years when it's election time, and individuals that understand that we have a coastal cleanup every 6 months and don't try to take it over. for and make it all about themselves. When we talk about things that are going on in Pasco County, we need somebody that's paying attention to what's going on, not just what's going to benefit them and benefit their condominium development. When we talk about what's going on in Pasco County, we need commissioners that actually care about the fact that we're #1 in hepatitis A, B, and C in the state of Florida, and that in no way, shape, or form makes us a premier county, because that is directly connected to our issues with substance abuse. Because our hepatitis A, when it happened, had nothing to do with restaurants, unlike the rest of the state of Florida. When we talk about what's going on in Pasco County, we need somebody that actually is a fighter for the people of Pasco, not somebody that's just going to sit there and say, vote for me because I've been here for 16 years, and at the same time I show up every 4 years to talk to you about why you should vote for me. We need somebody that actually wants to look at solutions for the problems in Pasco instead of just alluding that we have all of this Restore Act funds when we really don't, when those funds are already limited, when those funds are already spoken for. We need somebody that actually wants to take care of the people of Pasco County, not just line their pockets.
Mr. Mariano.
Well, I will tell you, attitude is everything. It's how you look at things. And I will tell you, I am absolutely thrilled at the progress that this county's been making, especially for the past 16 years. When I first got elected, we had all sorts of issues, as we talked about earlier, with stormwater. I can give you neighborhood after neighborhood that are just thrilled with what we got for results. When I look at economic development for this area, it is about creating jobs, and that will radiate in effects. The jobs we look at are not just the ones that are going to be retail jobs, but they're going to be jobs that are going to create more jobs around. They're called target industries. And I think the focus that we've got has led us to get such a great leader, let's say a Bill Cronin, that could have worked anywhere in the world, has done a phenomenal job putting Pasco on the map for places to go. He's shown us how to do things. When it comes to a place like an overpass park, which is over in Wesley Chapel, that had 21 acres, I was told, turned out to be 99 acres, prime commercial land on I-75 the county owned. My initiative pushed that park to get opened, and now all of a sudden it's going to create even more manufacturing jobs. When Mittler Toledo came into play, we pushed for that one real hard along the Suncoast Parkway. The Touchpoint site, when I first got elected, was not even the economic development site. That led to 400 some odd jobs. So yeah, my focus will be to go big picture items, but at the same time, when it comes down, when people were flooding, I'm on the ground. I've been out there, I've cleaned ditches, I've gone through, I've delivered food, I've delivered water, going through the neighborhoods. I'd much rather fix the problems, and I think we're doing that, because I haven't done that in a few years. I got a pair of boots that sat for the past 2 years that, you know, pretty much we're going through getting things covered. There are going to be some flash floods in the area. We're going to cover those. That's going to happen a little bit, but as far as everything goes for the future of Pasco County, I am very excited for the future. I look forward to serving for the next 4 years.
Thank you both very much for taking the time. That's the end of our County Commission District 5 forum, and we'll be coming up with State Representative District 36.
Thank you.
Welcome to the next debate for the November 3rd general election. We've had two great debates so far. Everybody has stayed on task and answered the questions. We've had some great questions. These debates are organized by the Public Policy Committee of the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce and also by the West Pasco Board of Realtors. And we're in the Board of Realtors' great building. We appreciate their support. The debates are being broadcast by John Gaston of WeBeam TV, and you can find them on the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce website or on the West Pasco Board of Realtors website. We also have two sponsors. We have Coldwell Banker, F.I. Gray and Son Residential Realty, and we also have ServPro of West Pasco. And with that, we have Nora George from ServPro of West Pasco. Norris, would you like to tell us a little bit about ServPro?
Thank you so much, Bruce. I'm Nora George. I'm the president of ServPro of West Pasco, Wesley Chapel, and Hernando County, and we are proud to be your masters of disasters. You can call us when you have any fire, flood, or disaster, but you can also call us if you ever need any advice about how to time debates. ServPro provides the really cool debate timing stopper that we use. When it gets to 1 minute, we turn on the green light. When we get down to 30 seconds left in the talking period, we have the yellow light, and when it's time to stop, we go red. Remember, if you need ServPro, we're here to help.
All righty. Well, thank you, Nora. The next debate is for state representative seat for District 36, and we have Daniel Endonino and against Amber Mariano. And this is pretty much west of Little Road in Pasco County. Just a programming note, the other two districts, we had a couple cancellations, so this will be the final debate of the night, so you can all go watch the Tampa Bay Lightning win the Stanley Cup. But the format is we were going to have a coin flip, however, Amber deferred to Daniel, so Daniel will be candidate number one. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement, and then we will alternate questions back and forth. Our moderator is Jeff Solacek of the Tampa Bay Times. Jeff's been with the Tampa Bay Times for over 20 years, and he's done a few of these debates. So when the questions go back after the opening statement, we'll go back and forth to the candidates. The first candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question, and then the other candidate will have 1 minute to respond, and then it goes back to the original candidate for a 30-second rebuttal. So that's 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then back for 30 seconds. At the end, there will be a 2-minute closing, and the candidates do not need to take the full time. Sometimes shorter is better, and we can get more questions in. And with that, we will let Jeff ask questions of Daniel Endonino and Amber Mariano. Thank you.
And we are good to go. We start off with 3-minute opening statements, and Mr. Endonino, you get to go first.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here. As a political outsider, I'm sure some of you still may not know me. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm running. I moved to Hudson when I was about 11 years old from Long Island. We moved down mostly so my mother could help with her family, one of whom being my aunt who died of an overdose at 14. I otherwise spent my time going through the public school system at Hudson Middle and Hudson High, playing street hockey with my friends on weekends and through the summer, and swimming at Hudson Beach. One of those kids can't really do these days. As an adult, even though I've worked full-time and a part-time job at the same time, I was still living out of a '78 Volkswagen bus. It was after a couple years of the same job, was able to save some money to move into an apartment with a friend, but I was still eating slices of cheese or bowls of popcorn for dinner, just to have enough money to pay for all of my bills. I haven't been to a doctor in over a decade because I didn't have health insurance or health insurance with a $7,000 deductible. I've helped my sister raise 4 kids in this area. They've all gone to school through, they're at 5A high school at the moment, and I've been to open houses and I've seen how underfunded our schools are and how overworked our teachers are. I could say these experiences have made me a better person, but that's not it. There's no glamour in this struggle, and many of these things in my life were preventable and are preventable if we come together and decided to address them. We should be passing a livable minimum wage. We should be expanding Medicaid. We should be making mental health care and addiction recovery services accessible to everyone, and we should be funding our schools and paying our teachers. That's who I am and why I'm running.
Ms. Mariano, you get 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name's Mariano. I've been serving the 36th district now for 4 years. This is my 3rd election, and in the past 4 years I have worked tirelessly to help make higher education more affordable for our students by expanding the Bright Future Scholarship Program from only covering about 40% of tuition to now covering the full 100% of tuition, as well as passing my own bill, which was the biggest expansion in workforce education for our students in Florida history, helping expand access to vocational and technical training for kids while they're still in K-12, and helping them get access to education and certifications before they graduate without having to pay a dime, being able to go straight into high-paying jobs. That's my biggest passion, is helping expand education for our students. Additionally, since I was first elected, I said I would help work in stormwater and flooding in the area, and actually in this debate in 2016, one of the things I said was that I was going to help get the state, federal, and local government together, working together to help improve those issues, which we have done, and helping get federal funding for Forest Hills, and helping along many other ways with having the county now take over the Gulf Harbors and Palm Terrace water systems, where these people were paying over $100 a month for water. Now they're on Pasco County Water, paying a normal, $40 water bill, and hopefully also doing the same thing for Gulf Harbors coming up soon. So I like to work on big policy issues in the state capitol, but I also like to help work on everyday issues that affect everyone here in District 36, because I've been born and raised here my whole life. Went through Day Spring Academy, went to Hudson Middle School as well, went to 5A High School, graduated and went to University of Central Florida, and now I'm also pursuing a master's and working as a paralegal, all while still trying to make sure our office is helping every single person get through their unemployment claims that they're still dealing with, and hopefully helping to improve that system in the future in this upcoming session.
Very good. We are now going to start questions. We'll go back and forth between the two of you. The first person will get 2 minutes, as I said. You'll get 1 minute to respond, and then a 30-second sort of rebuttal or response. And we'll start off by talking about some of the amendments that are coming up on the Florida ballot in November. And you had mentioned Amendment 2 regarding minimum wage, Mr. Antonino, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about why you think that that is an important amendment, why you support it, and how you think it should go forward.
I do support it. I think it's very important because I think if you're working, especially working a full-time job, you should be able to afford to live and pay your bills. I know $15 an hour sounds a little scary, but it really comes out to about $30,000 a year. I don't think that is asking too much of a business to pay. As most of our, I would say nearly 50% of District 36 is about within the Alice threshold, which is about $400 away from financial ruin if any kind of event happens. We need to be able to, businesses should be able to pay their employees, and that money comes back into the economy by being able to spend. If people can spend money, businesses thrive. It works for everybody.
Ms. Mariano.
Thank you. I do not support the amendment as it stands. It would you would lose about probably 500,000 jobs here in the state of Florida. And with COVID-19 and the amount of jobs we've already lost, I don't think that's the right thing to do for our citizens. I do think the minimum wage should be adjusted yearly to reflect inflation because it hasn't been adjusted in decades, and I don't think that's right. But I don't think that the jump from where it currently stands to $15 an hour would be the best thing for Florida businesses, Florida families. And imagine, although having $15 an hour would be better than the current minimum wage, many people would lose their jobs because of it. So we need to make sure we're keeping our families and our workers employed.
You have 30 seconds.
It's Amendment 2 is a gradual increase, though. It's not something that will happen overnight, and I believe it initially goes to $10 an hour to help just initially lift us up. But I think like I said, $15 an hour isn't asking too much. It's $30,000 a year. I think if you're working a full-time job, you at least deserve to scrape by.
Okay. Amendment 3 would open primary elections for the position that you're running for, as well as for members of the cabinet and the governor, to all voters regardless of party, and the top 2 would then advance to the general election. Do you support this idea? Why or why not?
You know, I think that the closed primary system makes sense because when you register to vote in Florida especially, you know that you're able to vote in that primary or not, and so if you want to vote in that primary, you can register based upon that, and I think the system that we have is sufficient.
I sort of agree. I think I don't think Amendment 3 is the way to go on this. If you want to do an open primary, we should look at other states that you choose the party when you go to vote and you take that party's ballot. I think doing this kind of primary system eliminates voter choice in the general elections.
You have anything you'd like to add? No? Okay. Then let's just look at one more, Amendment 4, which would require 2 separate voter approvals of 60% or higher to amend the state constitution instead of the current 1 vote that we currently have. Would this be a good thing to do? And I guess we're going to you, Mr. Endonino.
No, I think it's infringing on people. It's stopping the government from listening to the people. We're taking away the people's voice. I think if we pass something once with a 60% majority or more, the people have made their choice. We need to go ahead with that. We don't need to make them go through the process twice.
Mr. Mariano.
I will say I don't support it either. However, I do have larger issues with the constitutional amendment process. I think this is a republic in the way that it has been, how it's been implemented in the past, especially with Amendment 4 in the last ballot. What people voted on is not what they thought they were voting on, and I think that has caused major problems, as well as the CRC being able to just have commissioners vote on it and then put all of these ballots or all these amendments on the ballot. Voters get very confused with the issues being paired together in one amendment, and so I have issues with it as a whole. I don't think that's the way to resolve any of those issues, though.
Let's stick with that just for a minute. The CRC, I know that last session there were some efforts to abolish the whole idea, and even to abolish the idea of amending the Constitution the way that we do. Could you talk about what you think would be a good way, if there is a good way, to amend the Constitution?
You know, I think the 2/3 of the legislature is the way it should be, and I think we should abolish the CRC. I don't think that those aren't elected by the citizens of Florida, the commissioners, and while they are appointed by those who are, I don't think that they're the right proxy, and those are not the people that they are deciding to make those policy decisions. So I think a great first step would be abolishing the CRC.
Mr. Endonino.
I think I need to look more into the CRC and the process there. I think we need to not just allow the legislature to be the sole arbiter there. I think we need to listen to the people more. Ms. Mariano brought up Amendment 4. I don't think people have been heard, listened to there. So I think we need to just keep the voice of the people and allow them to be heard.
Nothing more? Okay. Let's turn away from those amendments now. Let's talk about some other things. How about a state multi-billion-dollar revenue shortfall? We have that facing us, looming ahead, and so far the legislature has not called a special session. Should the legislature call a special session? And if it does so, what should be the budget priorities?
I think the Democrats did call for a special session back in May, I believe, and all of the Republicans, including said no. So we're still now staring down the barrel of that budget shortfall. I think we need to look at getting rid of the corporate tax rebates that we did about, I think it was like $540 million to the upper 1% of corporations that the Republicans in the legislature, still knowing at the end of the legislative session at the budget process there, knowing COVID was on the horizon, they still allowed that to go through. And now we're staring at a multi-billion-dollar shortfall. I think we also need to look at other revenue streams. Something simple like legalizing recreational marijuana would bring in something about $135 million in tax revenue. We need to look at other things like that instead of directly going to cutting social programs. I think we need to be creative here. It's going to be interesting, but I think initially we need to look at immediately ending those tax rebates for these large corporations.
The governor vetoed about $1 billion in projects that were supposed to go to different communities. Every single one of my projects got vetoed. And in the state of Florida, we have one duty, and that's to pass a balanced budget. So we've done that, obviously, every year. And because of that, we have also, in preparation for a time like this, put billions of dollars into reserves where we did not need to call a special session because we have enough in reserves at the time to be able to handle this in the next legislative session.
We still have I think it was like $5 billion shortfall in the next 2 years, so those reserves don't seem to really be there. The incoming Speaker of the House said there's going to be deep social cuts coming.
Can we stick with that idea a little bit? Because I know that the school districts, for instance, are all very concerned about what's going to happen. Will they have to make mid-year cuts in spending, and will they lose people? Do you not see that the legislature needs to do something beyond just rely on its reserves, or where do you see this logically headed next?
Well, I'm not saying we only need to rely on our reserves. I'm saying that because of the reserves, we're in a position where we're able to wait until this legislative session to address this issue.
Okay.
And I think it's also appropriate to make sure we can fully have a bipartisan investigation of DEO and how these unemployment claims were handled. I think we need to make sure we're looking at this deeply in the appropriate amount of time and not trying to rush it. When we go to special session, we're there for a few days. We're in and out. And I think that this is so large of an issue that we need to make sure we're addressing it appropriately, thoroughly, and not just having, some quick in and out meeting.
I think there should be other things explored, like the government contracts. I think we need to look at how we're spending there and see if we can either renegotiate or find things in-house that the government and the state can do to also save us some money going forward.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add? No. Okay. So let's turn to COVID-19. I would just like to hear how you assess the governor's and the government's approach to the pandemic. Maybe you could give the governor an A through F grade and explain a little bit about what you think needs to be done next.
Obviously we're in unprecedented times in recent history. Dealing with something like this is very difficult, and with all the economic impacts and health impacts, you're really it's a lot going on. And the governor, I think, has done a good job. I would say I would like to see a continual safe reopen and making sure that all of our families are protected and we have the infrastructure in place to help support these families through this transitionary period, and making sure that we have health officials across the state that are helping with testing and making sure there's education on how and when you should get tested, because it's still very hard for people to be able to figure out those basic questions. And really making sure we, like I said twice now, improving the unemployment system and making sure that our families have access to those resources that are there for them, and making sure they know how to access them and use them.
I think the governor was a bit hands-off until recently with now superseding the fines on the mask mandate, trying to shoehorn everybody back to opening brick-and-mortar schools when his original message was, basically let the localities choose. And I think Pasco County did well initiating, bringing in the mask mandate pretty early. And I think the governor's response has been a little wishy-washy. I think, like I said, coming in now and forcing phase 3, when I do believe there's been a little spike in some cases in here in Pasco and in Florida. I think we need to just be patient.
Okay. Let's talk about criminal justice a little bit. You guys are great because you have so many different issues you get to deal with, and it's so much fun to ask all these different questions. Should the legislature be dealing with criminal justice or police reform issues next session? And while you're discussing that issue, let's talk a little bit about that report we saw out of Pasco County with the sheriff's office doing this intelligence-based policing. Does that need to be taken into consideration, or is the issue just fine the way it is?
I mean, certainly it's not fine the way it is. I think we need to make sure
Did we go the wrong way? I went the wrong way. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I do think, I'm not sure if it needs to be taken up as the governor has requested. I think many of the things on his list are already on the books. I think some are infringing on First Amendment rights, and also there's a removal of some penalties if somebody drives into a crowd of protesters. I don't think that is right. I do think what's happened here in Pasco County, that article you mentioned about the intelligence-led policing, is a bit of an overreach. I think that needs to be looked into. Crime is down in Pasco, but I think there's more we can do to prevent crime. We also should be looking at dealing with homelessness and poverty in the area, which all prevents crime. So we should be looking at moving and funding programs in our communities that help address those issues.
Now I get to come to you. Sorry about that.
No problem. You know, obviously there is an issue in the state and in the country right now, and there has been since our country has started, where we need to make sure that our police officers are accountable, as in some places they are, in some places they're not, and making sure we have these accountability measures in place for them when maybe more body cameras or things along those lines, to make sure that there are repercussions for their actions in many places where we've seen, you know, weak repercussions, and I think that's not just. And you know, but I do think we need to support our law enforcement officers that are doing their job protecting and serving their communities. I think that's essential, and we need them here in our society, and making sure that they're supported but also accountable.
Yeah, I think things like body cameras are a great idea. Implicit bias training. There's a program called 8 Can't Wait that is shown to reduce police violence, but I think we need to help unburden the police with some of their things that they're doing, like working, like for social workers, getting social workers involved and things like that. We need to help. They're doing too much. I think we need to help, but also we need to look into different kinds of trainings to help reduce police violence.
Okay. You guys are going really fast through my questions. I'm afraid I'm going to run out, so I'm going to just keep writing new ones down as you talk. Education is the thing that I cover the most, and I'd like to talk with you about it a little bit. Let's start with education vouchers. The state has expanded vouchers using state taxpayer dollars now rather than tax credit scholarships to allow children to afford to go to private school. Tell me a little bit about your position on vouchers and why you take that position.
You know, I think we have one of the best, if not the best, school choice programs in the nation here in the state of Florida. We give so many families the opportunity for parents to be able to decide what the best educational opportunity for their student is, whether that's through their own traditional public school, whether that's through a charter school, or whether that's through a scholarship to a private school. You know, obviously we do have an income threshold on there. This is not just for any student to be able to go to a private school with public dollars, but these are for the students. And I've gone to the tours of the school when they presented the scholarship to these students, and it just gives them a whole new world of opportunities in some cases, where their own school, maybe they went there and they were not able to succeed, or the Hope Scholarship before, maybe they were bullied and had no other way out. And these scholarship opportunities give them that way out. It gives their families a choice and a say in their education, and I think we really do have the best program in the country.
I am anti-voucher. I think we need to be investing in our public school systems. Like I said earlier, a product of those, I think there's value. I'm not ready to give up on our public school systems. I think our teachers need our help with paying them and getting them the supplies they need. I think that should be our priority, is fully funding our education system.
And I would challenge, what is fully funding? It's never enough, however much we fund the public school system. And I am also a product of the public school system, and I think it is amazing, and we really do a great job here in the state of Florida. Of course, we can always do more, but enough is never enough.
Then there's higher education, of course. And we've heard some members of the legislature talk about wanting to, in some cases, defund universities that aren't doing the way that the things that they want the legislature to do. The things that they want the universities to do. And we've talked about tuition and how long can it stay, how low. Can you talk a little bit about your higher education priorities and where you see that headed?
Last report I saw is Florida is #1 in higher education. Our public university system is great. I don't think we should be talking about defunding just because they're not doing anything that the legislature wants them or doing things that way. I think we need to continue to fund them. We need to find creative ways to keep tuition low. I think access to college in our universities is great. We should also be looking at tech schools and things like that because college isn't always the right way to go for some people. But I think Florida is actually doing pretty well on higher education.
Yeah, well, we are #1 in the nation in higher education, like you said. I'm very proud of our state university system here in the state of Florida, our college system, as well as our technical and vocational schools. But specifically to the university system, as you asked, we have recently, in the past 2 sessions, looked at their spending and their reserves specifically. There are many universities, if not all of the universities, that have over 50% of their operating budget in reserves, where these dollars could be going to scholarships for students. They could be going to improve, to add on professors and have lower class sizes, but instead they are just letting it sit in reserves. I am very hopeful that we can look into that more this session. We did decrease it last session, but it started at a minimum of a 5% reserve, and then it went to it started as a maximum 5%, then it went to a minimum, and now there's, no floor. So we need to make sure that we are really reining that in.
I have completely lost track of who gets the next question.
We're good.
He passed on that, so we're back to you, Ms. Mariano? Okay. Tell me a little bit about term limits and what you think about them, because there have been talk that since the lawmakers have term limits, that maybe school board members should, maybe county commissioners should. Is that something that needs to be tackled at all? Do term limits work?
I think term limits are excellent. And I'll tell you, before I was elected, I wasn't so sure. But now that I've been in office, I see what term limits have done in Tallahassee, and it really gives you the opportunity to have new ideas coming through. And, you could have one person in the other chamber who doesn't like your bill that you think is going to be really great for the state of Florida, speaking from experience, and then they term out, and then all of a sudden you can get it passed. And so there are really some great opportunities to term limits. I think that is the right thing for voters. Whether, 8 years is the right number, maybe 10 years, 12 years I've heard. I'm not so set on a number specifically, but I do think that term limits really, at the end of the day, help get new blood in there, help get fresh ideas, and really help make sure the constituents are being heard.
Mr. Antonino, and I'm going to start saying your names now so that way I don't forget who I'm talking to.
I think term limits, I'm a little iffy on them. I think if a legislator or somebody in an elected office is doing well, we should reward them and not punish them for having to term out. I do think that if we can keep the electorate educated and informed on what's going on in the process, then you'll see them hold us accountable for what we're doing and therefore term us out that way. I think, like I said, with term limits, you find people that aren't paying too much attention because, they're gone in X amount of years. It doesn't really matter. I think it also helps us build a bench of better politicians going forward by gaining experience, and it lets us see people's records while we're going in.
Do you have anything you'd like to add? No? Okay. We're going to stick with you, Mr. Antonino. Tell me a little bit about one bill, if you could pass one bill in the legislature, what it would be and why.
Other than raising a minimum wage, my my other priority is fighting climate change. I think we haven't done enough. There was an article in the Times, I believe, at the beginning of this year, that said the Florida legislature lost about a decade in the fight against climate change. This district is a waterfront district. We are on the front lines. We should be looking at ways to move our energy grid to net zero emissions as quickly as possible. We need to look at ways to clean up our water here. I know, like I mentioned, Hudson Beach, I don't remember the last time anybody could swim in there with the fecal bacteria in there. These are things we need to be doing. Public transportation, all of this is within the scope of climate change. It's something we need to be addressing immediately.
Now, I don't want to hear about what you think about his bill. I want to hear what your bill is.
My bill would be to expand upon the reform we did in workforce and technical education for our students. I think really having STEM education in elementary school and helping get our students prepared for the workforce straight out of high school, I think is the best investment we can make in our students. Obviously, we have a great higher education system that will be there if they decide to go to college. But I think making sure that we invest in the students in those workforce opportunities will help families for generations to come, and especially with the pandemic right now, for those students that are going through high school right now, helping get them access to not just AA degrees through dual enrollment, but through associates in science degrees, and being able to come out ready to go, start a job right when they graduate.
Okay. I'm supposed to offer you 30 seconds back on that. No? No? Okay. So I'm back with you, Ms. Mariano. Let's hear what you have to say about this one. Tell me one area where you disagree with your party leadership and why.
One bill that I've co-sponsored since I was elected is the Competitive Workforce Act, which luckily the Supreme Court did help us with a portion of that, but making sure that regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, anyone has access to, cannot be discriminated against based on those things, whether it's in the workforce or public housing or public accommodations.
And why?
Why? Because it's 2020. I think that everyone should be on equal footing, and I think that there's no reason that because of the ways or because of who someone is, they should be discriminated against. And I think most people agree with that.
Okay, Mr. Antonino, one area where you disagree with your party's leadership and why?
That's a good question. I think, again, it's not like Democrats haven't been there. We haven't done enough on climate change as well. They've been fairly, up until recently, on their hands. I think there needs to be urgency. I think for too long, Democrats in Tallahassee have been quiet and not fighting hard enough for the issues they believe in.
Would you like to respond anyway?
I don't know really how I can.
Well, I just want to give you the chance. So we're at this point now where you need to tell us what makes you the better candidate. Why should we vote for you? Why should anybody consider you over your opponent?
Like I said, I believe that there's been an absence of leadership here. I know Ms. Mariano just mentioned the Competitive Workforce Act, but Pasco Pride has been, and other groups in this county have been asking the county commission for a human rights ordinance to protect them here, and there's been no leadership there. I think that we have, in Tallahassee, I don't think we've been well represented. I think there's been some issues that, the dissolution of the city of Port Richey and things like that, that shine a negative light on this area and our leadership. Those are things I stand. I'm sorry. I think I'm the one that can go into Tallahassee with new ideas and a loud voice and fight for everybody here in this district.
Well, I have new ideas every day. I have phone calls with my constituents, and I hear of issues that are actually impacting their daily lives. One of which recently was if you have a certificate of completion from high school, you're not able to go to a technical school. You need a high school diploma or a GED. And so that's one issue that was just brought to my attention, that I will file that bill upcoming this session to help expand that. But I'm born and raised in this area. I have worked tirelessly the past 4 years. I have already gone through a few of the things I've passed, like I've said, workforce education reform in the state, as well as trying to improve the quality of life here for those residents that have had crazy high water bills and flooding here in the area as well. So I will continue to fight for those issues. I will also be open-ended to any constituent that comes with me with an issue that they need help on, as I have in the past, and just make sure those get across the finish line.
As for flooding, I live in Gulf Highlands, and I almost missed my niece's graduation because my car is too small and the water was up to a mailbox. There's floods almost with every afternoon thunderstorm. I'm not sure where these results are, so I think it's time to change and actually get some results here.
Should have given me a call.
I think we're at the point, no? I can ask a few more questions, but I think it would be fun now, and I know that they didn't tell me I could do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, to let you each ask each other a question. And we'll let Miss Mariano go first.
What is an issue that you agree with Republicans on that you would like to see passed in this upcoming session?
That's a good one. I do think there is some movement here on the way, I'm a broken record, but climate change. I think there's finally some movement on the Republican side to have those discussions to protect our waterways. I think there was a couple of bills last session that were proposed by Republicans that I could get behind.
You have to name them, though.
Name the bills?
Yeah.
I don't know the actual term, but the one that passed with the seagrass protection off the coast, that was number one.
Now it's your turn.
You talk a lot about helping students with higher education. What can we do more to help our high schools here? We're still, I believe, on the last report I saw, we were still 45th in the nation on per student spending, and we are one of the largest states with one of the largest economies. What can we do to bridge that gap?
I think one thing that, when we had our big teacher raise bill this year, that was lacking was the increase for veteran teachers and helping them not just be having fresh teachers come in making the same amount as the veteran teachers, although I think any teacher raise is a great thing and I would never vote against any teacher raise. I do think that we should have increased those spending, and I think helping make our teachers feel supported that have been in the system for 20 years would do a great thing for morale in the schools as well. But I mean, any increase in education funding I think is a great use of money for our students, for our families, and for all of Florida.
Okay. Going along the line of what you should and shouldn't do, is there anything that the legislature should not do this year? They should just leave it alone and let everybody just sort of rest and figure out what's going on at this point? Or do we just have to keep on passing legislation just to pass legislation? Mr. Endonino, it's your turn.
I think we need to look at every bill that is proposed and ask how it helps people and who it helps. If it's big business, I think we should probably not worry about that. I don't think we should continue to be giving businesses, large corporations like Disney and Universal, tax breaks. I don't think they're going to pack up their theme parks anytime soon and leave Florida. I think we need to, I think that's the main thing we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't be giving any more tax breaks to the upper 1% of businesses in Florida.
Ms. Mariano.
I would say we should stay hold on no income state income tax here in the state of Florida, and not to raise not to raise taxes on our businesses and families here in the state.
Okay. Well, we have gotten to the point where I have run out of questions, and you guys talk very fast, and so I appreciate all of these answers. And now I'm going to give you your 2-minute closing statements, and we are going to start with you, Ms. Mariano.
Great. Well, thank you everyone who's watching at home, and for everyone that's here today. Appreciate your time. It has really been the honor of my life to serve District 36. Living in Hudson, born and raised in Hudson, and being able to represent the community that I call home has been the greatest honor of my life. Being able to work on issues that I campaigned on, getting them passed, such as issues that may not make the big headlines, but excess credit hours for our students who are getting charged double tuition in our universities when no one would listen to them. I was there, and after 3 years, we finally got it over the finish line, helping provide relief. And that's just one of many bills that I've been able to hear an issue and solve the problem, and that's what I want to do, and that's what I am campaigning to continue to do. Is if someone brings me an issue, I will do whatever I can to get that problem fixed.
Mr. Antonino, you get to close out.
I'd just like to say thank you, everybody, for having me and for watching. I opened tonight with my story, but my story is not unique. In this, nearly half of this district is within that Alice threshold within that says that they're one financial surprise away from being within financial ruin. Many people are ignoring preventable illnesses out of fear of medical debt. Addiction is still taking too many lives in our community. We need someone in Tallahassee that knows what it's like to live under these conditions and that is still waiting to see improvement. We need someone in Tallahassee that will listen to all of the constituents, that will be proactive, and that will listen with empathy and strength and have the strength to get things done. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for spending time talking with us and answering all these questions. That is the end of our State Representative District 36 forum. And thank you to the Pasco Chamber and to the West Pasco Board of Realtors for allowing me to come and ask these questions. It's been fun. I'm still looking at the camera when I'm supposed to be. Sorry about that. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tim McLean, President and CEO of the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank the candidates tonight, as in 2020, this has been a very sterile, figuratively and literally, environment. So it is a little strange, but for them to come out tonight so that you could learn more about them as you're getting ready to vote is very important to all of us. I want to thank the Greater Pasco Chamber of Commerce Public Policy Council, chaired by Sandy Graves and Greg Armstrong, and the rest of the council who's out here actually helping us tonight as volunteers and for planning this event. I want to thank the West Pasco Board of Realtors as we got the use of their great facility here, and also teaming up with us tonight to be able to put this program on. And thanks to ServPro and Caldwell Bankers F.I. Gray & Sons for making it possible to help underwrite the expenses tonight. And of course, Jeff Solacek, Tampa Bay Times. We couldn't do it without a nonpartisan body that could ask the questions and keep the night going smoothly, and nobody's better than someone from the Tampa Bay Times, so we appreciate that. I want to thank each and every one of you that were watching tonight for giving us your time to learn more about the candidates and putting up with a interesting and different kind of debate with no audience and just cameras. It is different. It is sterile, like I said, figuratively and literally. And finally, I don't care how you vote, mail-in ballot, which are in the mail, whether you vote early voting or you vote the day of the elections, all we ask is that you just vote. Please go to the polls this year. Make your vote count. Thank you, candidates, for getting us out of here in time, because guess what? The puck drops in about 30 minutes. Go Bolts!